Hello. This is different from what kind of content I usually do. But let's talk about cards, because I really like talking about cards. And there's no better time to talk about cards than when Fantastical Parade has come out. So let's just get right into it. Mega Gardevoir. We got 210 HP, Stage 2, Fantasia Force, 2 Psychic Energy, 110 damage. Take 3 Psychic Energy from your Energy Zone and attach it to your Psychic Pokemon in any way that you like. Obviously, like, here, let me make it bigger. Obviously, like, this card's pretty good. Lots of people are talking about, like, pairing it with, like, Gengar, because, of course, we're talking about the potential Mon in 2026. People are talking about pairing it with Giratina, which I think is also very viable. Like, for example, as well, you can, like, say you have a rare candy and you're not going against Chingling because maybe you're not playing ranked. I don't play ranked very often. So you can rare candy into Gardevoir, and you can also run Dawn. So on turn 3, you can have Mega Gardevoir. You can end a turn by doing a Broken Space Bellow with Giratina. Get a Psychic Energy onto that. Next turn, Dawn a Psychic Energy onto Mega Gardevoir. At that point, you're probably just GG, unless you're going against, like, maybe an Entei or a... Probably mostly just Entei. Maybe Suicune if they break on, like, their bench basics, or Froakie, or etc. That's 110 damage by potentially turn 3. That's pretty nuts. I do like the idea of pairing this with Mewtwo. This also, like, potentially puts Mew on the table. Like, if you're going against, like, a Charizard EX, you have some sort of answer to it. Provided it doesn't get to you first anyway, of course. You could always, like, try and avoid a Cyrus with one of the new cards. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Then, like, switch into a 1-point Pokemon, sack that, and force your opponent to use Charizard. Or, like, suffer a Sabrina up a Pokemon in the back. There's a lot you can do with Gardevoir. What is a good card to pair with Gardevoir? A lot of people are like, oh, you could do it with Lunala, you could move the Psychic Energy around, but at the same time, like, that's 2 Stage 2s in a deck, and plus you're talking about moving it around, so you're probably including more Pokemon in that deck, and that... I don't necessarily think there's a world where that works. You could maybe run, like, May. You could maybe run 2, like, basic EXs that are pretty decent, like Mewtwo and Giratina, but I don't really see that working very often. It might be very cool when it does. What other Pokemon need a lot of energy to attack? You could potentially run Cofagrigus. You could run Dusknoir. Dusknoir and Mega Gardevoir actually might be pretty good. You can make sure that you can attack with Dusknoir pretty immediately. There's that one Dusknoir card that you flip a coin and you maybe don't lose a point. That might be a funny partner for it. You could also run, you know, the Dusknoir that does the big suck, so that it doesn't really, like, take very much damage or any damage at all, realistically. Lots of 130, though, and Dusknoir only goes up to about 130. And, you know, Altaria and Greninja swing at you for 150, and then Dusknoir just slurps and dies. People have talked about running this with Latios and Latios. Latios sounds like a pretty good opening tank. Latios is a pretty good finisher. Then you can do the 110 into the 120 type thing, which does KO most things if you don't take healing into account. If you do take healing into account, let's say, like, Mega Blaziken, okay? So it has 230, we'll say it has a cape. So you hit it for 110, it has 120, it goes down. Then they use Lily, they're back up to 180, and then they swing at you. You hit them with Latios, and then they hit you with a Cyrus, and you just die. That doesn't really work. I could see, like, Latios being a decent partner for it in some situations, but not always. Cresselia EX is really funny, because you can heal it for 60 with Gardevoir in one turn. I don't know why you would want to do that. Drifblim, which does 20 damage for each energy attached to it. You know, I really should just... I'm going to put my game on the screen. I'm gonna keep the rest of that take, but I'm gonna put my game up on the screen. Hold up. You can put, like, 5 cards on the screen, right? You can do that for me? You're a good girl. You can do that for me. Takes, like, 3 minutes of your day. That's not a screen copy. That's Snipping Tool. And now let's behold the Pixel tablet. All right, let's continue, shall we? So yeah, you could pair it with the Xerneas. Again, you're doing kind of like the 110 into 120 thing that Latios can do. I don't really see a world where that works out. Like that, you just eat it to Osiris. People are also talking about pairing it with the Reuniclus, which plus 30 HP for each psychic energy attached to it. While funny, and it does give it an additional 90 HP, I would see Mega Gardevoir as maybe a better finisher for the Reuniclus deck. More than anything. If you really need to, you can run, once again, one of the new cards and heal for 90 and detach some energy. Not from you, Reuniclus, but from Gardevoir here. So, like, it might work in the Reuniclus deck, but you're definitely running a one of Mega Gardevoir, and you're running, like, the Genetic Apex Gardevoir for the Psychic Energy anyway. Like I was talking about, Drifblim. The deck does 20 more damage for each energy attached to his Pokemon. You can try to ramp it up. We use Gardevoir's ability. I'm just gonna pull up the new card and talk about it briefly. It seems very relevant. At the moment, Diantha, heal 90 damage from one of your Psychic Pokemon that has 2 or more Psychic Energy attached. If you healed any damage in this way, discard 2 Psychic Energy from that Pokemon. So you could do a world where, like, you know, attack with Mega Gardevoir, you attach 1 energy to it, and then 2 to Drifblim, and then heal for 90, attack again, attach more energy to Drifblim. That way Drifblim's got like 5 energy on it at that point, and I think it does 100 damage, so you might be able to ramp it. You could run like Miss Magius in there, like a 1 of Drifblim, just so you don't like start with it, and you might be able to make that work with like Copycat and Dawn, and not Dawn, Fantina, and etc, etc. There's one other card that goes, what is it? Sightseer. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck, put all the stage 1 Pokemon you find there into your hand. That could help you find your Drifloon in your end game. You can run like a Pokeball. How much HP does Misdreavus have? Misdreavus has 50, so you can run, how much does Ralts have? I think Ralts has 60 HP, unfortunately. Yeah, Ralts has 60 HP. So you probably run 2 Pokeballs. You can run a Alicia. Oh no! Where'd my Psychic Pokemon go? Okay. So you might be able to pull something funny with that, but you're using a lot of support slots at that point. Let's see. They attach energy. I should look into this card, but I don't think it's a good Gardevoir partner. Once again, people talking about Mewtwo, people talking about Gengar, people talking about Mew. I think Espeon with Sightseer has some potential as well. That could be a fun deck. I really need to make a Miss Magius deck. It sounds fun. People are also talking about this new Giratina that can, like, retreat. Just an aside, this Giratina actually is capable of taking advantage of Heavy Helmet. So do it that way you will. What else can you pair with this thing? Talked about Latias and Latios. Talked about Mew, Togekiss maybe. Damage is done to this Pokemon attack. Flip a coin, prevent that damage if heads. That might be a funny partner, a very funny tanky partner. Certainly you can run, like, again, Genetic Apex Gardevoir, and ramp it up very, very quickly. Although you'd probably just run Overdrive Smash Togekiss at that point, I would think. And obviously, like, if you're running any Psychic deck, the new card, Peculiar Plaza, the retreat cost of each Psychic Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, is 2 less. You have a lot of pivot options. You can also run Shiinotic with the aforementioned Sightseer, and, you know, do something with that. That doesn't necessarily need to be in a Gardevoir deck. You can, that is the thing that you are capable of doing. Bayonet's a classic. Comfey might work-ish. You could certainly do it to, like, cure status conditions. Put a Psychic energy. Well, like, actually, no, you don't even need to put a Psychic energy on that. You can just, like, be immune to status conditions, which in this current meta, Nihilego and Crobat are running around, so that would definitely be useful. And I see that being a thing almost certainly. People have talked about running it with the Lake Trio, which this might actually be one of the better uses. Because, again, you're running a lot of Pokemon in that deck, but you don't really need to, like, commit a whole lot of deck space. I don't think I would want to start with any of these, so I'd probably just run one of each. Potentially multiple of, like, Azelf or something just for Cyrus potential. If we're talking about regular Mewtwo, you can run it with basic Mewtwo, but you can also do that with Necrozma. Necrozma is basically a reprint of this card, so that's a thing. You could run it with Dawnwing's Necrozma, but I don't know why you'd want to ever use this card. Yeah, let me just hang myself down to 80 HP for no good reason. So, I think that largely covers, at the very least, Gardevoir. Psychic's getting a lot of tools. You can run Meloetta, which at the beginning of your turn, this Pokemon, what does it say? If this Pokemon is in an active spot, put a random Psychic Pokemon from your deck into your hand. Very, very powerful. Very good, in my opinion. You'll be able to do a lot of crazy stuff. Again, you can run Shiinotic with this just for like higher Pokemon search, higher Pokemon output in general. Pumpkaboo! I feel like they either include these cards because they are cute and appeal to the people who like cute cards, or because their evolution usually has some sort of impact in the meta. Let's talk about Mimikyu as well while we're on Psychic Pokemon. Disguise: when this Pokemon is first damaged by an attack after coming into play, prevent net damage. With the word after coming into play, the way that sounds, at least to me, like if you play the regular TCG and there is a card like this, oh, why do? You can go ahead and comment down below, and I'm sure I can do some. I'm sure I can correct myself, or I'll pin your comment or something. But the way that sounds is when it first is damaged by an attack after coming into play, like when you put it on a bench, that's coming into play. It doesn't sound like there's a condition for that to end, so you can just put this. It can just vibe, and the only thing that's going to be able to hurt it is like Greninja. Obviously, I don't think you want to start with this card. I really don't. I think that you put this card into play late and potentially run it with Gardevoir, because you can have Gardevoir tank an attack, then heal it with Diantha, retreat into Mimikyu, and Mimikyu might have 120 HP, but it's gonna slap something really hard for 70. And then like maybe you're running a Mewtwo in that deck as well, and Mewtwo pops up and is like, hello bitch, and just KOs your opponent's Pokemon. So lots of Psychic cards. Just go over Vanillite. I don't know why this card's being showcased. Again, it falls under like, this card is cute. Maybe it'll be useful. Maybe they want to remind us that Vanillux exists, which is, by the way, not a terrible card in my opinion. So do with that what you will. Next card I want to talk about is Phalanx. Just because it seems like a good fighting toolbox deck, or just fighting toolbox card, not deck. Coordinated unit: if you have another Phalanx in play, this Pokemon's attacks do 20 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, or 20 plus 20 damage, so it's dealing 40 for 1 energy. This Pokemon takes minus 20 damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. This is basically just for throw, but better, because it actually can like hit something for super effective damage. And I don't think it would be hard to get a second one on the field, especially like you could do a funny fossil build. You can do a lot of things. People are talking about running it with Lucario. Since it's 1 HP or 1 energy, you could probably even run like Lucario EX. There might be a Lucario EX in there, deck in there somewhere. But we'll really have to see. Next interesting card is Oricorio. Inspiring Dance: for 1 energy, 10 damage during your next turn. Attacks are used by your Pokemon do plus 20 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's not just Oricorio that does that extra damage. It is any Pokemon, period. It obviously can only be run in a fire deck because it's running fire energy. Like this can do stuff. This can make like, let's pull up the fire cards. Let's move me out of the way. So potential good partners. You know, Houndoom for 1 energy, plus 30 damage. You're dealing 80 in 1 attack. That's a pretty good number to be hitting. Of course, the meta could change. Arcanine, 2 energy. Flip a coin if heads your opponent. Of course, you can always do it with Flame Patch as well. Rapidash EX is, no, that's hitting for 70. And that's hitting for 70. I'm silly. Rapidash can hit for 130 and damage the bench. That's pretty good. Oh, in theory works. But I don't know why you would. I don't know why you would. That's 4 energy. That's ridiculous. Makes Mega Blaziken hit for 140, which actually makes it Oko Suicune in 1 hit. So that's most certainly a thing that you can do with a Giant Cape. Need to make, that's an important, like, marker. Makes it hit 160, and then Giant Cape works. Simisear, that's a card. What do you do? Dormana Hands? That's too much energy investment. Chandelure is hitting for 100. That's okay. I don't think Bench is affected. Roar's hitting for 150. Turtonator, I feel like if you're running Turtonator, you want to start with Turtonator. You're not trying to buff Turtonator. Let's be honest. As an aside, it does make Incineroar hit for 70 with Burn, and it makes it hit for 160, so maybe you can do something with that. Obviously, like Charmeleon, Charmander, 50 or 70 damage, roughly. Pretty good. I don't know why you'd run Fire Claws, Charmeleon. Make Charizard hit for 80 for 3 energy for 1 turn. 220 is a good number to hit. I don't think you're ever going to hit with Stokesard. It can make Flareon deal 60 damage, which 10 plus 60 is 70, which KOs most things, unless your name is Furfro or you've evolved. But most basics perish in 1 hit, and then you can like do something with the fire energy. You can Flame Patch maybe into a Flareon EX, swap back out, hit with it, do 1, and then you're dealing 150, potentially upwards of like 170 if you're running red or EV bag with Flareon EX. So we might see Flareon EX in the meta, especially like, you know, you could run it with Giant Cape to avoid a Greninja, Altaria, Oko. We will see. I don't know why you'd run it with Moltres or Torkoal, again, probably not running it with that. Infernape, hitting for 160 is pretty good. It's basically a 2-point Mega Blaziken, but why would you not run Mega Blaziken? But like, a Heatran can maybe deal 100. That's pretty good. If it has damage on it. I don't know how you would achieve that, but it's doable. Incineroar we talked about. Entei hitting for 80 or 140. I brain farted. Talonflame people use for a little bit. You could maybe do something with that. Ninetales, 140. You have options. Typhlosion, 80 damage. Don't know why you'd play Entei, but you technically can. This Heatmore exists. I don't know. Salazzle, 40. Actually, we should look at Salazzle. You can make Blacephalon hit for 150, which is incredible. So you could like sack Oricorio into Blacephalon, deal 150. That way you're dealing at 160. And then if you're running something else, you can make it hit harder. A potential for hitting 110 with Turtonator, plus 90 equals 200, pretty good. You could also run this Houndoom, but you'd only be dealing 60. I feel like trapping in the active spot. Playing Dhelmise recently, trapping in the active spot actually does have a lot of use at the moment. Lots of things retreat for 1. It's a very like light retreat cost kind of meta. The Salazzle that poisons and burns, how much damage does go away? I don't want to look at it. 80 damage with this Salazzle. That seems pretty solid. Ninetales. With Blaine, you can hit 140. That's actually like a real mark to hit. 140 is kind of nuts. And that looks like that is it for the fire Pokemon. So there's a bunch of ideas just throwing out there. I'm sure I missed some. But I feel like maybe 3 energy. Even 3 energy is pushing it, in my opinion. Unless you have like Flame Patch and you have a turn to just sit in the active and like smack with the Oricorio or something like that. We're going to talk about Metal Core Barrier. If this card is attached to one of your Pokemon discarded at the end of your opponent's turn, this steel Pokemon this card is attached to takes minus 50 ? Damage from your opponent's Pokemon. Use yeah, that's minus 50. That's an incredible number. That's an insane number. You can do so much with that. If you will direct your attention over to my tablet again, a couple of things that you can do. Number 1, Steelix, obviously you can take minus 70 in 1 turn and then equip Heavy Helmet and take minus 40 for the rest of your turns. So Steelix might actually be on the table. I've been debating like making a deck with this Steelix. I don't know why. Nobody's really looked at it. It doesn't seem bad. You can like Probopass. Probopass is capable of sitting in the active spot too, especially with Metal Core Barrier. Minus 50, then equip Heavy Helmet. You're minus 10 for the rest of Probopass's entire existence. Like, you might be able to, like, Probopass into Steelix into Mega Steelix. Because Probopass is going to sit in the active spot for a long time. You have time to build that up. You can also run Adamam, so defense might actually be on the table. Genesect, don't know why you'd run it on Genesect. Ferrothorn could be funny. It does technically take minus 20 damage, so you could take minus 70 for a turn. Melmetal EX, obviously. Deal 150 damage for 1 turn is very good. And minus 50, and potentially, again, minus 70 with Adamant. So, like, yeah, I really think that Steel type is back on the board. People are also talking about, like, running it with Skarmory. You can take minus 70, and then you can run Jasmine, and you can take minus giant numbers. And, fun fact, if you run Jasmine with this Metal Core Barrier, Skarmory lives a hit from Mega Charizard Y at 10 HP. Probopass EX might actually be a good use of it as well. Minus 20 damage from attacks. You could, like, run this Probopass with Lyra, and then you can go into, like, this Probopass and live forever, and then you can, like, finish the job with Mega Steelix or something. You can do that. I might look at that. Dialga might actually be on the table going second. Not going first, going second. You might be able to do something with, like, Steel Apron or, like, Adamant just to survive a turn. So, Dialga EX might actually be on the table. Possibly. It's never been very good. So, Galio can take advantage of it. 180. So, you're gonna come up, swing for 120, base tank something. Maybe play a Lily, go back up to almost full HP. Hit something again, face tank something again, and then hit it again, and that's 360 damage, and that's just ridiculous. Obviously, you can run it with Tinkaton. That's a funny card. You can run it with Will and swing for 160 one turn, and then potentially, like, 80 the next, and I don't really know anything that survives that. I think, like, double Will or double Head actually KOs Mega Venusaur, even if it's trying to heal itself. Might be a good bet to run Steel Apron with that kind of deck, though, just to, like, cure any status effects. So that's a combination. Cling Clang. I've always wanted to make a Cling Clang deck with 150 damage and minus 50, potentially minus 70. With Adamant, you're definitely going to get 70 into 140, which again is a very good number. I think that this card is gonna blow Steel, like, wide open. Goldango, sure. I've been debating building a deck with this, like, with Genesect and Probopass, and do, like, kind of a Diet Celebi kind of thing. It might, maybe, possibly put this Magnezone on the table. Minus 30 damage is incredible. You can almost guarantee that Bastiodon will just survive a hit and not care. Minus 150 damage potential in that regard. Melmetal, I think, is probably going to be on the table. You can have it, like, face tank and attack. Minus 90 with Adamant. And then Stack Attacker, which will also be able to take advantage of minus 70, minus 100 with Adamant. And, of course, Donmei Necrozma still continues to be the best Necrozma, benefiting from this Steel buff as well. So Metal Core Barrier is going to be a very fun card, and it's going to make a lot of things ridiculous. If you have any ideas, of course, comment them below. I'd love to hear them. I build decks. I like to think I'm creative, but there are combinations that obviously I'm going to miss. We will talk about Galarian Obstagoon. Merciless Strike, 70 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon has damage on it, this attack does 50 more damage. So it does 70 up front, and then 120, which is 190, which is not going to kill a Mega, but it's definitely going to survive. And you can combine it with Pierce. You can only use this card if you have Galarian Obstagoon in play. Discard 2 random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. This basically neuters anything that's not Psychic, obviously. Psychic is going to be able to take advantage of Peculiar Plaza, so that, like, it doesn't really, like, do well into Psychic, but anything with a high retreat cost and also is not Suicune can do stuff with that. Obstagoon is basically better Weavile EX, but a stage 2. This is one of those cards where it's just like, you know, Piers is good on paper. Obstagoon is good on paper. Like, this combination is very good on paper, but I don't know if I'm a believer. And I'm gonna have to experiment with Galarian Obstagoon. I haven't played Dark type in a hot minute. You might pair it with like Darkrai or something, and then you can like Darkrai Dawn, being it for 20, put energy onto Obstagoon. And that way it has damage on it, and you can just swing and do 140 damage in one turn, potentially. So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see how I feel about that card. I know a lot of people are excited for it, though. What I'm really excited for is Teal Mask Ogerpon. Soothing Wind's just kind of a benefit. Each of your Pokemon that has any energy attached recovers all special conditions and can't be affected by special conditions. Great on paper. This is a very splashable card. It is vulnerable to like Greninja Cyrus. It is worth 2 points, so you have to keep that in mind. That being said, I think you could probably run this in a deck with like Lilligant and Leafeon, because with Leafeon, it's really easy to hit that energy threshold of 5 or more on both active Pokemon, so stealing 120 damage up front. I've come to learn too, once again, through running Delmise, that Sylveon, especially with Leaf Cape and Lilligant, can get upwards of 190, 210 HP. And this can get 200 HP with that combination. It's just capable of living for, like, ever. Of course, it dies to Mega Charizard, but everything dies to Mega Charizard. Like, you can't do anything about that. There is nothing to be done. And plus, like, if you know, have this go into something, KO it, then Charizard comes up. You potentially have another, like, Teal Mask Ogerpon. And Charizard runs off of 4 energy, and Charizard is going to have to KO itself. So you can very easily force a tie against Charizard with this. Again, on paper, at the very least, in my opinion. There's a lot of cards that you could combine this with, but I think I'm most excited to play this with the Leafeon. So that's all my brain can think about. I'm sure I will think of other grass. This is probably the best grass card in the game, I think, in my opinion. Plus 1 retreat cost is insane for a grass Pokemon. Ledian. This attack's damage isn't affected by weakness or any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. People are saying that might be like an ability thing, and it's colorless. So this is like a far-fetched. That's the stage 1 that you can put in any deck. That's grass type, so you can cover for, I guess, like Dart disadvantage with this card. Maybe like you don't need to even earn this with Mega Altaria. So we'll have to see how the meta develops. Ledian seems pretty alright on paper. You'll be able to do a lot of silly shenanigans with it. Cinderace, Fireball Shot. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. Has 130 HP. You might be able to do something with that. I'm sure you can. It seems like a silly card. Maybe Blacephalon, something. I've been wanting to try and make Blacephalon work for 5 ever. Mega Mawile. 170 HP, very strong at a retreat cost of 1. Again, that's incredible for a steel Pokemon. Can take advantage of the new cards as well, so it can, once again, potentially go up to -70. Heat Up Crunch for 60 damage until this Pokemon leaves active spot. This Pokemon's Heat Up Crunch attack does plus 30 damage. This effect stacks. People are saying this is Miltank. I think that it has more potential than just Miltank. I thought of something earlier, but I have my note. Nope, never mind. Okay, I remember what I thought of. So you could potentially run this in like a deck that utilizes Probopass and Steelix, just to minimize your chances of starting with it. Onix has a pretty hefty retreat cost, so you definitely want to start with Nosepass in that concept. But like Probopass, you can go into Steelix. Mega Mawile only needs 2 energy. So you can hold that in your hand, and you can hang on to that for like 8 bajillion years until you're ready to play it, and then your opponent has to deal with an endgame like Pokemon that has 170 HP, and that's kind of ridiculous. That's a basic that has the HP pool of Greninja EX that is capable of taking -70 damage. So people are saying this is just Mega Miltank, and they're kind of right, but I think it has more potential with that, and just comparing it to Miltank is a mistake, and probably one people will regret. Mega Medicham, which is a promo card. If this Pokemon has any psychic energy attached, this attack does 40 more damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon, so this actually might be able to punch through Oricorio, according to some people. So this will be the first EX that does not care about Oricorio, so we'll have to see. Obviously, 3 energy is a funny cost. Fun fact, you can run this in like a doofy Poliwrath EX deck with triple energy, and get attacks off occasionally. Very, very doofy, and I don't think it would necessarily go anywhere, but it's funny. Last card to cover is Mousehold. Flip a coin for each tandem mouse in Mousehold you have in play. This attack deals 60 damage for each heads. We'll have to see what tandem mouse does, I think, is the answer to that, because 60 damage for each heads, that's 70 HP, but that's like a miniature Marowak or Lopunny at that point. Big Gamba. But that is a thing. That is a thing that you can rent. Woman yaps for 30 minutes. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and like. I'd like to do it more. I like to yap. I like to theory craft. And I will see y'all in the next video. Okay, bye. I love you.